Hey, my name is Mark, and the question I'm doing is number 4. What benefits did Athens gain from the alliance, and at what cost to its members? The formation of the Delian League was meant to be a huge step forward for the Greeks. It was intended to throw off the shackles of Persian oppression and to reimburse Greek coffers after the destruction of the war with Persia. States originally flocked to join the League, as it provided the promise of security from Persia. However, as time went by, it became apparent that Athens, being the leader of the League, had more interested in securing her own power than with the aims of the League. Athens benefited greatly from the alliance at the expense of the other members. The three primary benefits gained were wealth, security, and power. These benefits without a doubt led to the changing of the Delian League into the Athenian Empire. For the other members of the League it was obvious that in joining Athens, whether by choice or not, they had been reduced to mere subjects of the newly formed empire. The first benefit to Athens being analyzed is the wealth gained from running the Delian League. The wealth was acquired in a number of different ways. Thucydides states that the official aim of the League was to compensate themselves for their losses by ravaging the territory of the king of Persia. He then continues to explain that the League fought primarily on three fronts: against the Persians, against their own allies when they revolted, and against their Peloponnesian powers with whom on various occasions became involved. The campaigns against Persia proved fruitful. Under the lead of Cimon, a number of very successful missions were completed. A few prime examples of these include the liberating of Byzantium, the recapturing of Eion, the freeing of Caria, and perhaps most renowned, the Battle of Eurymedon. After the climax of these campaigns, namely Eurymedon, Plutarch states that Cimon and the League forces sacked or destroyed some cities and induced others to revolt or annex them, until not a single Persian soldier was left on the mainland of Asia Minor from Ionia to Pamphylia. These successes brought huge amounts of wealth into the treasury of the League from both the spoils of the sacked Persian regions and the reopening of liberated trade routes. Wealth was also gained from the League's contribution system. Being a member of the League came with a number of perks. However, the ally was required to provide some kind of support, be it fiscal or in the form of ships. Upon the creation of the League, the Athon Aristides was asked by the allies to help with the allocation of contributions. In the words of Plutarch, they appointed him to survey the various territories and their revenues, and then to fix their contributions according to each member's worth and ability to pay. According to author R. Meigs, it is of historical certainty that either by choice or compulsion, gradually paying tribute instead of providing ships became the norm. By 431, only Chios and Lesbos were still providing ships. The cause for this is not completely known, however some estimates can be made. For example, some historians such as Pamela Bradley believe that the change of contributions was brought about by the unwelcome prospect of fighting other Greeks who were rebelling against Athens. Thucydides states that the majority of allies had assessments made by which instead of producing ships they were to pay a corresponding sum of money. After the successful actions of the League against the Persian Empire, the Peace of Callias was formalized in approximately 450. Despite the primary aims of the League being accomplished, Athens still demanded the continuation of tribute and that the League remain intact. This caused much upheaval, which led to the subjugation of a number of states. The Athenians did a number of things with the large amount of wealth that they gained from leading the alliance. The Athenians were renowned for their maritime expertise. Sparta knew that to take the fight to the Persians a powerful navy must be used, and they accepted the Athenian superiority of the sea. At the formation of the League, the fleet needed the Athenian citizens to row for them. Originally, the money coming to the League was spent largely on paying the Athenian rowers, who were a huge part of the League's naval power, as well as constructing and maintaining new ships. When the majority of League members began paying tribute instead of contributing ships, historian Chris Butler believes this triggered a feedback cycle that benefited Athens greatly. He explains that with the majority of states paying tribute to Athens, Athens pooled this money to create an even larger navy. This soon led to Athens owning the significantly most powerful navy in the entire region, which put all the other Greeks at their mercy. Chris continues to say that the dominant navy could be used to keep League members under control, forcing them to pay even more money to maintain the fleet that was controlling them. In 454, the League's treasury at Delos was relocated by the Athenians to Athens. Athens publicly stated that it was due to fears of a possible Phoenician raid post the League's recent defeat in Egypt. Although it was apparent that Athens, whether justified or not, had solidified itself on the progression from League into Empire. With the treasury moved, the Congress of Allies no longer held meetings, and the revenue of the entire League was dumped into Athens' own treasury. The allies were no longer consulted on how their funds would be used. Under the motivation of Pericles, historian Pamela Bradley explains that this money was not only used for the navy, but also for the rebuilding and beautifying of Athens. A building fund was established, and great buildings and temples were constructed, such as the Parthenon. Lecturer Max Pinkston believes that the idea of the building fund was to make Athens look like the seat of the empire that it was. The benefits of wealth were great for Athens. However, there was a large cost for the other members of the league. Originally, the tributes being paid by the members of the league were being spent on the war with Persia. As this was the intent of the league, it wasn't at all a detriment to the members. As the successes of the league continued, more and more states were brought into the league. These states which had just fought for their freedom against Persia were now forced into the league, and forced to pay tribute. Lecturer Max Pinkston uses an analogy comparing Athens to the mafia. He says that league members were essentially still paying for protection, only now it was not the protection of a league against a common enemy, but the sort of protection one pays the mafia for, just on a larger scale. These tributes hurt the members economically, primarily as less money was available for the construction of any kind of naval or resistance force. As discussed further on, this led to the Athenian navy growing strong at the allies' expense. After the Callias peace, Athens still demanded the league to not disband and that its members continue paying tribute. While outraged, many states continued to pay these fees as they had no chance of avoiding the dominant Athenian navy. This is the second detriment to the members of the league. Athens' wealth was used to construct and maintain a vast and powerful navy. As states gradually chose to pay tribute instead of contributing ships, the Athenian navy grew strong at the members' expense. This meant that not paying the required tribute would lead to an even stronger navy bringing you to heel. Thucydides states that, for this position, it was the allies themselves who were to blame. The downsides of paying tribute to Athens continued. As the Athenian navy became the primary arm of the league, its forces became adept at fighting and veterans of campaigning. The troops and crews of allies who had decided to stop contributing to the league became unpracticed in the art of war. This meant that a revolt of any kind would be fought with unprepared troops who would be facing the vastly superior Athenian navy. Examples of what this led to are Naxos and Thasos, which were two states that, due to the experience and overall dominance of the Athenians, became subject states of Athens. Ultimately, the massive gains of wealth for Athens costed the league members their independence. Any kind of rebellion or attempt to secede would be ruthlessly crushed by Athens and sometimes even other league members. However, the defeat would never just end there. For example, Thasos rebelled in 465. The besieging Athenians fought for 2 years before breaking through. According to historian Pamela Bradley, the Thasians' navy was confiscated, their walls demolished, their mint closed, and their possessions annexed onto the mainland. They were forced to pay an indemnity and also lost their independence, and on top of swearing an oath to never rebel again, they became a tribute-paying subject of Athens. This shows the extent of control that Athens had over the league members. One of the biggest benefits that Athens gained from the alliance was wealth. It was acquired in a number of different ways, including a tribute system and the spoils of war. The wealth was used to construct and maintain a powerful navy that ruled the sea. The wealth was also used to rebuild Athens into the heart of the empire that it was. The great gains of wealth to Athens came at a cost to the members of the league. States recently freed from the Persians were forced to pay tribute to Athens. All members were required to continue their tributes in both times of war and peace, which fed the Athenian navy greatly. The members of the league also felt the Athenians' wrath when they revolted, only to be crushed by a superior navy that they had funded and turned into subjects.